Hello there. Welcome back to the First Stage Woodworking Podcast. My name is Paul Hyatt and I'll be your host. We talk about craftsmanship and finding meaning in our lives. I hope that you enjoy this podcast and that you will like, subscribe, and share it along with other people who might be interested in stuff like this. Thank you and God bless. Hi there. Welcome back to the First Stage Woodworking Podcast. I am so incredibly sorry that it's been such a long time since I have done a podcast like this. It has been a wild ride over the course of the past year. Uh, for me and my wife both, we've just had so much going on and so many different moving parts to our lives that it isn't even funny. So things simply had to go, and one of those was podcasting, and unfortunately, the other one of those was just being able to really do much woodworking. I made a couple presents here and there and stuff like that, but really I just wasn't able to do too terribly much as far as getting out of my shop. It was pretty much all hands on deck on working a full-time job and letting the other aspect of my teaching career start to take off a little bit there. Um, so here we are. A lot of good things have happened in that time frame for me and for where I see my life heading. So I am remarkably, well, I guess I shouldn't say that I'm less busy, but because I still am incredibly busy, but I am I'm essentially self-employed now, so I am able to work as an independent contractor for the school that I work with online, and I'm able to um, do a lot of other things that I've been wanting to do with my life for a while. One of those being getting back in the shop, and then the other one uh, being able to start hopefully this home building project here soon. So I'm actually kind of in the initial planning phase of all of that, hoping to be able to talk to the Shelter Institute, which was the school that I went to out in Maine, um, and talking to banks and getting all of that good stuff figured out. Uh, so yeah, I mean, a lot of really, really positive things have taken place in my life, and mostly back on the right track again here, and continuing on with the things that I really, really enjoy doing, not necessarily just the things that I have to do in order to be able to get my family back together. Um, so uh, I just wanted to briefly talk about kind of where I see things going with regard to this podcast. It's still kind of centered around the idea of craftsmanship and talking about things relating to that. But, I mean, well, I guess I can be a little bit philosophical with you and tell you kind of what I think about our modern world's mentality of keeping a lot of things separate. Um, so, uh, yes, I want to talk about craftsmanship, but really, when you look at my life, I've really kind of, taken my life in a lot of different directions. I've been somewhat of a wanderer, somewhat of an adventurer through my life in the sense that I've done, I graduated high school, went off to the Marine Corps, um, went to school to study history and the social sciences, philosophy and the like, um, and then I became a school teacher and really, well, and then also becoming a craftsman and becoming Catholic, and you know, a lot of what has taken place in our modern world is uh, like people want to separate all of those things out and keep them all as kind of like nice, neat, and tidy and whatnot. We even do this in education, where we somehow act as if when we're teaching history, we can separate that out from the rest of the social sciences. So as if like I can just teach you a fact of a matter without actually getting into like, well, this involved people, so that involves psychology and sociology. Um, and then these people, would have they had their belief system of the world, so that involves kind of a discussion of religion and philosophy. And then, these individuals lived in the world, so we kind of need to talk about the physical geography of things. Um, and they engaged in commerce and fought wars, made treaties, stuff like that. So that's a topic of economics and politics. So really, in my mind, the discussion um, of one's life, like as say for example a craftsman, is really not any different than one's life as a school teacher, or in much the same way that to talk about history is really, in my opinion, to talk about all of these other things. I could be wrong in that, but I don't think, based off of what I've heard from my students and the love that they tend to have for my courses, I don't think that I'm wrong. I suppose I could be, but I don't think that I am. Um, so you know, and I think that I kind of gave that idea when I started doing this whole podcast, that it isn't just a talk about like tools and how to use them and stuff like that. There's a bunch of different people that are out there that are doing that. I like to talk about meaning, and so like my life as a teacher has had a profound impact on me and led to me having a very, very meaningful life. And the same is true of being a craftsman, and the same is true of converting to Catholicism. So all of these things are kind of connected in that idea of them all being very meaningful aspects of my life that I want to share with all of you and talk about with other people. And I've kind of just always noticed that that seems to be the things that people actually want to talk about, not just facts or how to do something and stuff like that. I remember probably, I mean, at least I think that it was probably one of the best videos that Paul Sellers, who is really in many ways the woodworker through distance learning, that probably had the biggest impact on me. Um, but I think that probably the coolest video that I ever saw him do was when he was kind of just talking about his life as a craftsman, and talking about why he chose to be a hand tool craftsman, and you know, and talking about how with machines you're always feeding the wood into the machine, but with hand tools you're feeding the tool into the wood. So it's kind of like you acting through the tool, or putting a bit of yourself into what it is you're doing. And I really love that. Like that had a profound impact on me as a young man, or younger man, trying to teach myself all these things. Um, so I'm really interested in talking with anyone about anything relating to meaning. So as the podcast kind of progresses through here, um, you're going to continue to hear me talk about or talk to craftsmen. In fact, I'm hoping to be able to get a friend of mine from Hartford City. Is actually Hartford City Councilman Ron Duddleston to come on the podcast and talk with me about his life as a craftsman. As he actually sells furniture and stuff like that. And we've talked a little bit about it, and wouldn't you know, much older man, but kind of has the same thought process that I do with regard to it, that really it is very near to a religious experience that one has when they undertake a craft to the best of their ability. I hope that lawnmower isn't making things too noisy where you can't hear me. I doubt it is, but it's annoying to me. But in any case, so yeah, you're gonna hopefully hear shortly. You'll see me talk to Ron, so that's good stuff. I've actually, at the time of recording this, I've already recorded a podcast with my dear friend uh, Josh Johnson, who came on to uh, talk about our life together as being Marines and kind of how meaningful of an experience that was to the two of us. Uh, and I look for that podcast to be meaningful to, is very, very meaningful to me, which is in part why I do this, but very, very meaningful to him and very, very meaningful, hopefully, to several other people that will take a look at that particular podcast. Um, and then want to talk about economics with a friend of mine. I want to, talk about I want to talk with just about anybody that feels like they are um, that they have a particular story that they would like to share that's meaningful to their life, that they think that is essentially going to add to the human experience. Is kind of what I'm attempting to do with my work. Um, so I hope that you'll all appreciate that and take a listen. And some of these will be me, just kind of like reading out loud. There's something that I was working on for writing, um, and uh, and it you know needed to be read rather than spoken because it was maybe something that is a little bit too hard to just articulate ad lib. So, which I do dislike doing because it does seem like people seem to enjoy my podcast a little bit more when I'm just speaking out loud rather than reading off of something. Um, I wish that it could always be that way, but it just simply, sometimes you're dealing with very, very large, cumbersome arguments that you can't necessarily articulate very well without a script. So from time to time, these things will be scripted, but I'll try to keep away from that to the best of my ability and have as many guests on that I can. Well, and then I've also had the opportunity. I was at the beginning of this year. It's 2023. In January of 2023, I had the great honor of being on the Catholic Gentleman podcast, and I'm also I'm one of the speakers for the Catholic Homeschool Conference over this summer. So I've got some speaking opportunities that may also find their way onto this podcast. Or you can, of course, take a look at those podcasts that I did, or go to that homeschool conference over this summer in June. But you can go to the Catholic Gentleman and find the episode that they did with me, um, uh, and that's essentially kind of what I've been up to, and also what I'm pushing toward with regard to my podcast. So yeah, a discussion of meaning, and that can take you in all kinds of different directions. So that's the thing, is that I just kind of wanted to prepare the audience for that. That if you are a woodworker that is on here, um, you know, maybe you follow my Instagram page and you like a piece of furniture that I made and you want me to talk you through it or something like that, I'm more than willing to do that, and I want to do those things. Um, but more so, what my career is kind of focused on is looking at the why of things, not necessarily so much the how of things. Um, so so because of that, I would much rather talk about why an individual does woodworking, or why it is they want to make something in this particular way over that particular way, versus how they necessarily make it all the time. Though we will talk about both, and that means that that there is the potential there. Another disclaimer that I just want to give to the audience going forward, that I teach history and civics, specifically government, um, political science and political philosophy to high school students. Um, so I mean, like I've been studying politics for the past 10 years or so. So I mean, like there is the potential that I may say something that is of a political nature, talking to one of my friends or something along those lines. Like, for example, if I wind up having my friend Dr. Robert Lantis on, then we are likely to talk about economics. Economics and politics, for whatever reason, seem to kind of go hand in hand. So you may hear me make some political assumptions or a political claim that that maybe you didn't necessarily like. But just know that if I say it, I am more than willing to stand behind everything that I say. I try my best to tell the truth about everything and be more fact oriented rather than just going off of my own individual thoughts and feelings. So much of what I say, um, though I say it publicly, is not necessarily just my thought process. It's like, well, no, these are the thoughts of many, many a great thinker, both in our world today, but more predominantly from the past. So I tend to also like to talk about things that are very old. Um, so again, like, feel free to disagree with me and in the comment section on anything that I put out there. Um, and of course, I am more than willing to hear you out, as I am a huge proponent for the freedom of speech. Um, but just know that if I do say it, then more than likely I am more than willing to back that particular statement up. So I'm more than willing to engage in some discourse, is my point. I mean, whenever you speak a thought aloud, then that thought lives, and because of that, you deal with the repercussions of that moving forward with your life. Uh, uh, but I mean, part of kind of adding to the human experience is putting those thoughts out there. And then the last thing is that if I can get everything going with, if I can get everything figured out financially, um, in order to be able to get this timber frame building project going. Hopefully this summer, I will begin filming the process of building my next house, and I'm just so incredibly excited about that. Um, you know, Basically the home that I want to build, I essentially want it to be a testament to the love that I have for God and for my wife. So I am essentially trying to make something that is beautiful, that reflects um, God's transcendent beauty. So that's kind of one noble goal. But then there's also the other noble goal of wanting my wife to be able to basically be surrounded by me, and to know that I mean, like I kind of will have like dreams of my wife walking down the stairs of this home that I plan on building, and walking into a kitchen that I have built all of the cabinets and everything in, and she reaches up and grabs that handmade handle and grabs a couple cups of coffee and or a couple of coffee cups and makes us coffee, and we sit down and we enjoy our morning as she walks across the floor of my house, that I and her house as well, um, that I made and potentially planed down the lumber for. So I mean, um, and again, to kind of bring things full circle, the reason why I want to do it that way is so that every inch of my life and my wife's life are surrounded by meaning and beauty and truth and goodness and all of those things that make life worth living. So that is basically what all's been going on, and where things are headed for me and for this podcast. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope to hear from all of you. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast, if you think that you have a particular story that you would like to share, or a particular idea that you would like to talk with me about, I am definitely more than willing. Just comment below this video, and I'll figure out a way to get a hold of you, and we can go from there. Or, well, I guess you could just direct message me at my Instagram page as well. So yeah, I'm looking for guests, and hoping to be able to, uh, take this podcast a little bit further, and hopefully make everybody's life a little bit better, or at least not worse. So thank you for listening. I will see you all next time. Or actually, you will see me and my friend Josh Johnson next time. So thank you. God bless. Thank you for tuning into this podcast. I hope that you'll like, subscribe, and share this information along with people who may be interested in it. God bless.